Entering fantasy football season and draft day coming up in the next few weeks for fantasy owners. Here's a few running backs I look to avoid to draft this year. The first guy, Jonathan Taylor, the Indianapolis Colts. I know Taylor, he's going as a top 10 pick in fantasy drafts this season, but he's a guy I really just can't trust. A lot of factors going into this decision. So last year he was banged up, obviously, with the ankle. Still 192 carries, 861 rush yards, 4 touchdowns, 28 grabs, 143 receiving yards. But now he's on the PUP list. He is Jonathan Taylor. He's not 100%, obviously, with the ankle issue. And now reports have come out as well that he's had a back issue with Jonathan Taylor. So that's the first thing. So if he's got a bad back, that's obviously not a good thing. And there's obviously been video as well, him in training camp not looking good, watching the other running backs participate in drills, and him walking around very gingerly and really limping and banged up. And the other thing, he wants to get paid also is Jonathan Taylor, and requested a trade out of Indianapolis. And pretty much the owner said, we're not going to trade him and we're not going to pay him. So I don't know if Taylor's going to hold out or what the case may be, but with the injuries and the contract dispute right now with Jonathan Taylor, I'm not going to waste an early round pick on him. I'll let someone else in my fantasy draft take that risk, obviously, even though we know Jonathan Taylor 2 seasons ago had one of the better years you'll see in fantasy football, no doubt about it. But right now, with these 3 or 4 factors factored in, I don't know if Jonathan Taylor's going to see the field a lot this season. And like I said, last year, he missed a lot of ball games with the ankle injury, and obviously it's still a nagging thing. And now the back as well is definitely an issue in the contract dispute. So right now, I will let Jonathan Taylor get drafted by someone else, and if he breaks out, he breaks out once again this season. But right now, I'm going to avoid him going into the drafts. Next running back's Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. Kamara, after off-the-field issues a few years ago, a suspension finally came down, and he's going to be out for the first 3 weeks of the season. Here's Alvin Kamara. So right now in fantasy drafts, he's going about 8th and 9th round, which isn't that bad for Alvin Kamara, but last season the impact really wasn't there for him. 223 rush attempts, 897 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, 57 grabs, 490 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. And now with Jamal Williams in town over there for this New Orleans Saints team, we know he's a goal line vulture, and we know he's going to get every short yard carry as well pretty much here. Jamal Williams. And also with the rookie Keandre Miller, he's got some upside, and a guy who could get a lot of work in the first 3 games of the season. So with the suspension, Jamal Williams in town as well getting goal line work, and Miller possibly being a dark horse in this backfield here right now for this Saint team. Kamara's definitely going to lose work. And like I said, to go into a season, some people, they don't care about someone missing the first few weeks of the year. But for me, I want to get off to a quick start in fantasy leagues here and not worry about a suspended guy or when a suspended player is going to come back, and just draft guys that are going to be available. Because if someone goes down, saying you got Kamara on your team and you can't use him for another 2 or 3 weeks here, that's going to be a problem for fantasy owners. So right now, while Kamara is suspended, unless he really falls down in the drafts here, but if he's still going 7th to the 10th round range, I will pass up Alvin Kamara. Because like I said, last season the numbers went down. This year now Jamal Williams is going to steal goal line touches from him, and he's a running back I would avoid this season. The next guy is Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Najee Harris, he definitely was a bust for where he was going in fantasy drafts, and I had high hopes for him last season after he had an impressive rookie season. But now Najee Harris, it's pretty much, it could be a 60-40 split, I believe, this season with him and Jalen Warren was impressive last season for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So last year for Harris, 272 rush attempts, only 1,034 rush yards, 7 touchdowns, 41 catches, 229 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. So right now, Najee Harris, he's still going back into the 2nd round, early 3rd, and he's not really a running back that I'm interested in this season, especially in those rounds. Like guys like James Conner, I like better than Najee Harris this season. Travis Etienne, I like better than him. Even a Damian Pierce, I like better than him this season. Guys who you know that are going to get a full workload, who can catch the football out of the backfield. Even Gibbs from Detroit, the rookie, I like better than him. And Harris, I just can't trust after last season. And like I said, Warren, he's going to eat into the workload of Najee Harris. So right now, since his ADP is 2nd, 3rd round is Harris. If it was 4th or 5th round, it's doable, I believe. But in the 2nd or 3rd round, I'll let some other fantasy owner go out there and draft Najee Harris. So right now, I don't want any part of him in those rounds. And like I said, he's just going to lose more work, and he's not much of a receiver out of the backfield. After we saw last season, a lot of dump-offs and not many yards per catch, which is definitely a problem as well. The next running back was staying in the same division is Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals. So Joe Mixon, he's got some off-the-field issues as well, and it wouldn't be surprising to me if the hammer comes down on him for maybe a 3 to 6 game suspension in the upcoming weeks here before fantasy draft. So even last season for Mixon, he had a down year, besides one monster fantasy game where he scored 5 touchdowns in a game. So last year, 210 rush attempts, 814 rush yards, 7 touchdowns, 60 grabs, which is solid, 441 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. The only thing is, there's not really a great backup over there, obviously, in Cincinnati, with Samaje Perine, who I believe could be a starting running back in this league. He left the free agency and went to the Denver Broncos. So that's the only hope here for Joe Mixon. But obviously with a suspension looming and a very down season, and this Cincinnati team obviously going to a pass-first and pass-friendly offense over there with Joe Burrow and the great receiving core he has there in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Irv Smith Jr., who I think is a sleeper this season at the tight end position. With all those factors against Joe Mixon and his ADP, late second, early third, mid-third round pick, he's not really a running back I'm interested as well. Kenneth Walker I'd rather have than him. Even a James Conner, because he's getting the full workload. Breece Hall I'd rather have than him. Dalvin Cook, if he signs with a team, and he's going to be the starter, I would pencil him in there over Joe Mixon. And I think Joe Mixon, he's got a lot of miles on his body as well, and the decline definitely could come in. With a running back after 4 or 5 seasons of big workloads and 400 carry seasons, it definitely takes a toll on your body and you start to decline. So right now, I would avoid Mixon, and the 5th and final running back I look to avoid in fantasy drafts this season here is J.K. Dobbins of the Baltimore Ravens. So J.K. Dobbins, I know he's a talented running back, but he's another guy. He just doesn't see the field at all, and right now he's still on the PUP list is J.K. Dobbins. I know Gus Edwards is over there for this Baltimore Raven team, and last season Dobbins, he pretty much played a half a season as well. 92 carries, 520 rush yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 catches, 42 yards, and a receiving touchdown. So right now this offense, they beefed up the receiving core as well over there is this Baltimore Raven team. You got Odell Beckham, you got Zay Flowers, Rashard Bateman still there, Devin Duvernay, so they might pass the ball a little bit more. And obviously Lamar Jackson is going to get his on the ground as well, and I think they can unleash him, and he's going to play the hardest football of his NFL career as well, now that they finally rewarded him with a contract. After the last 2 seasons, Lamar pretty much gave up, in my opinion, midway through the season, especially last year, missing a handful of games at the back end of the year. So right now, Dobbins banged up. This offense might get a little more pass happy. And Lamar's going to get a lot of run at the goal line as well. So right now, with all those factors against Dobbins and him still being a 3rd or 4th round pick in fantasy drafts, I'll let someone else deal with Dobbins. And no doubt he's a talented running back. A few years ago, I was big on him. But year in, year out, it seems like he misses a chunk of time with injuries. So that's a few running backs I look to avoid here on draft day entering the fantasy football season.